We are joined by Ross McIlwraith from Ulster Wildlife, as I say. So get ready to go wild with Ulster Wildlife as we explore SDG 15, which is all about life on land. Learn how we can protect the species and habitats around us, like barn owls, red squirrels, and hedgehogs, through conservation projects happening right on our doorstep. So it sounds really, really good. I can see all of you sending in the names of your schools. Thanks so much, guys. So the SDG that we are focused on today for SDG week is number 15, which is all about life on land. So you can see it down in the bottom row there. The SDGs are a world plan made by the United Nations back in 2015, and all countries in the world agreed to work towards them for the year 2030 to make the world a safer, fairer, and healthier place. So SDG 15 is all about protecting, restoring, and using lands and forests in a sustainable way and stopping biodiversity loss. And it's really important. It matters for healthy ecosystems, provide us with food, clean water, and air. Climate supports forests and ecosystems help support climate change. Protecting biodiversity keeps plants and animals alive, and future livelihoods as well. Land management supports people and communities. So protecting and restoring land and forests is essential for life on Earth, keeping ecosystems healthy, biodiversity alive, and the planet sustainable for the future. So, with all of that said, I am going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to ask Ross to share his instead.
No problem at all, Si. Thank you very much for that introduction. Oh, and it worked so smoothly in the test about 5 minutes ago. And of course, it's not working now. It's not typical.
Yeah.
There we go. Can you see my slides, Si?
They're just loading, I think. They're about to come up.
It'd be a disaster if you just had to look at my face this whole time.
Yeah, I can see them now.
Oh, thank goodness. Heart was in the mouth there. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you have a good time. My name is Ross. I work for a charity called Ulster Wildlife, who are based in Northern Ireland, and we work on lots of different conservation projects to help protect our natural world in Northern Ireland. And we do lots of different things, but I work on our species conservation projects. So I work in looking after our wild barn owls, our red squirrels, and our hedgehogs. So I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about our projects and about why they're important, and then also what you guys can do to help protect these species in Ireland. So, first things is about Ulster Wildlife. We have 20 different nature reserves all across Northern Ireland that help protect and secure the future of our wildlife and our natural world. And we work with different school groups, community groups, and volunteers to help bring everyone closer to nature. And then we also save wildlife. We've got some wonderful projects at the minute. One that I'm very excited about is the oyster reintroduction project, which is so exciting. But today we're talking about life on land. We're talking about the things that I work on, which is hedgehogs, squirrels, and barn owls. So why do we work on barn owls? Well, barn owls are actually one of the rarest birds in Ireland. They're red listed, which means that they are an endangered bird. And in recent years, they've been doing a little bit better, but at one stage they were down to about 100 pairs across the whole of Ireland. Now we're sitting around 500, 600 pairs, which is really, really nice. But in Northern Ireland, they're extremely rare. We think that there's fewer than 30 nesting pairs of barn owls left in the whole of Northern Ireland. So there's actually more people now on this call than we know of barn owl nests in the whole of the north, which is crazy. A bird that was once really widespread is now really quite rare, and there's lots of reasons for that. We've lost a lot of its habitat of where it's lived, where they live. We've lost lots of their nesting places where they have their babies. They get killed on roads. Our weather is changing. Our climate is changing, which is affecting our barn owls. And also they eat lots of mice and rats. And so sometimes they can get poison from rat poison that's put down to kill mice and rats. So there's lots of things hampering them. Here is a map of all the barn owl sightings that were reported in 2022 across the whole of the island of Ireland. So we have Ulster Wildlife in the north and Birdwatch Ireland in the south, who look after barn owls. And all those yellow dots you see on the maps are where barn owls tend to be found. And you can see they're doing a lot better now in the south, especially in Cork, in Kerry, and those kinds of places. Barn owls are recovering really, really well. But as you go further north, the dots get scarcer and scarcer, and there's this big gap until you get to the east coast of Northern Ireland. And there's lots of reasons for this, but the main one is that we have changed our landscape and we have altered it so that barn owls aren't quite as common. Well, what am I doing about it? What are we doing about it? We're working with landowners and farmers to help improve their land for barn owls, giving them lots of advice and support in whatever way we can. We put up lots of nest boxes so that our barn owls have somewhere to nest and have their babies safely. Our nest boxes are very big. They're much bigger than your normal bird box. You can see there's a picture of me standing there with the bird box, with the barn owl box on the ground. They're very, very big, and that's because they're trying to replicate that natural tree cavity inside the tree. That's where the barn owls like to live. They like to go inside the tree trunk where there's a wee hollow, and that's where they like to have their babies. They're called barn owls as well because they like to nest in barns. They like these big, dry, sheltered spaces that are inside, away from the wet, cold, and the wind. So putting up these big boxes is a really big help for them. And one thing that we do is we monitor our nest boxes to make sure that everything's going okay and that the babies are happy and healthy. And we've got a lovely wee bit of footage here of two parent barn owls coming back together in the winter time. Barn owls mate for life, and you can see here they're doing a little bit of mutual preening. They're looking after each other, cleaning each other a little up, and giving each other wee nuzzles before they have their babies in the springtime. And one thing that we do when we know they come back to the nest box, then we look after them and we protect them. And we also, whenever the babies are old enough, we take them out of their nest and we put little rings on their feet. You can see here in this picture, there's two researchers putting rings on their legs. These are just like a little metal ring which has a little ID code, so that if the owl is ever found again, we know where it came from, we know where it was born, and we can see how long it lived and how far it flew away from its nesting place. And here's a picture of some barn owl chicks from this year. Something really cool that barn owls do, which most birds don't do, is that they have their eggs hatch out at different times. Most birds have their eggs hatch all at the same time, so the mummy can go off and get food and bring and feed them all at the same time. But barn owls have chicks at different stages. So this is what you end up with. You have chicks which look very old. This bird on the left looks almost like an adult. It's got lots of its adult feathers. And then this one is about 4 weeks behind it, and it's very, very fluffy still. It still looks like a baby, and it's a real privilege to be able to get to see these creatures up close. Once they're a wee bit older, they start to venture out and they start to stretch their wings and exercise their wings. They're not quite ready to fly yet, but look at them. You might be able to hear them as well if the sound's turned up. Making wee rasping noises. This is a family from this year where there's 4 baby barn owls, which is great, and they all sit and they exercise their wings before they're ready to fly. So we will keep monitoring them and watch those parents come back every year, and we will see how they do, how they survive. And here is an example of how important barn owl ringing is. So we have a chick that was ringed in July 2015 in County Kerry, and the chick flew all the way to Northern Ireland in the north, all the way to the north coast. Unfortunately, it was killed on the road outside Derry in March 2016, so not even a year old, and it flew 220 miles, which is absolutely amazing. So it's really important that we protect barn owls all over Ireland because they can travel all over Ireland in search of new places to live. Let me move on now to our other species, our red squirrel. So red squirrels were once really common all across Ireland and actually nearly went extinct twice, I think, but conservation efforts have brought them back. And in recent years, they're starting to make a comeback. They're starting to be more common once again, which is really, really good. There's a couple of things that affect them, though. They have lost an awful lot of their woodland. European our woodland cover in Ireland is very, very poor. We've chopped down a lot of our trees, so our squirrels are affected by that. They also struggle to move between different woodlands. If you can imagine being a little squirrel and you have to go find a new home for yourself because your mummy and daddy kicked you out and you got to go somewhere, they have to travel very far to try and find another woodland, and that comes with all sorts of perils for our red squirrels. And then lastly, the invasive grey squirrel. The grey squirrel comes from North America, and it's actually really bad for our red squirrels. They outcompete them for food, and they spread a disease called squirrel pox. And squirrel pox doesn't affect the grey squirrels, but it actually kills our red squirrels. So wherever we have the grey squirrels, unfortunately, it's not good for our red squirrels. And unfortunately, the grey squirrels is a human problem. We made this problem. This is a map of UK and Ireland in 1945. The red is where the red squirrels are, the grey is where the grey squirrels are, and the orange is where they're both found. And you can see there in Ireland, it's mostly red, which is great, apart from this little grey bit in the middle there. And that was because there was a release of grey squirrels in 1911 as a wedding present. 12 grey squirrels in Ireland, and that's all the grey squirrels that were ever released in Ireland. And in those years from 1945 to now, they have spread an awful lot. You can see there's an awful lot of grey and orange there on the island of Ireland. But in the west coast and in the south, the red squirrels held on really well. The grey squirrels didn't get there, so the reds survived. And we've got lots of different things going on that help protect our red squirrels. Ulster Wildlife works with lots of different communities and volunteers who help protect our red squirrels. Some help release red squirrels back to places where they were before. Some people plant trees. Some people build squirrel feeders for us, which help us survey where they are, because if we don't know where these species are, we can't help protect them. And of course, I forgot, the biggest help of all is the pine marten. Now, the pine marten is an animal which nearly went extinct in Ireland, but is coming back in a big way in the last couple of decades. And the pine marten actually eats squirrels. So you would think that pine martens are actually bad for red squirrels, but they're not. They actually eat more grey squirrels than they eat red squirrels. Pine martens eat lots of things. They eat lots of mice and rats and birds, but they also eat nuts and fungi and berries. But they have this impact where they eat the grey squirrels and then the red squirrels do much better. So because of all this work that's happening to protect our red squirrels and the pine martens coming back, our red squirrels are doing so much better. And here's a very quick map. Basically, this is an all-Ireland survey, the north and the south. All the red squirrels were mapped where people reported their sightings. And you can see there's much more red dots on the right-hand side. They are going up, and we are hoping to collaborate with the University of Galway again this year in doing another survey to see if red squirrels keep doing well. And I just want to show this quick video. How do we survey red squirrels? Well, we build a squirrel feeder, which looks a bit like a bird box, but the squirrels can lift the lid up. And once they lift the lid up, they go inside and they pick up a nut, and they can have the little nut. And we put cameras on squirrel feeders all across Ireland to see where the red squirrels are and how they are doing. I see some questions coming into the chat. That's absolutely brilliant. Keep them coming in. We'll answer the questions all at the end as best we can, okay? Hedgehogs, the last species that I work on. Everyone hopefully is familiar with hedgehogs, a wonderful little animal, one of my favorites to work on. They were once really common all across Ireland, but they're actually now in decline. But the problem is we actually don't know enough. We need more information to see how we can help our hedgehogs. But one thing that appears to be the case is that they're doing okay in our gardens, but they're not doing so well in the countryside. And there's lots of reasons that are impacting our hedgehogs. They're losing their habitat. Same thing with the squirrels. They struggle to move around. They get killed on roads, and there's less insect-rich habitats for them to live in because that's what they eat. They eat lots of insects. We collaborate with NUI Galway on the Irish Hedgehog Survey, and you can see there all those blue dots represents where someone has seen a hedgehog and reported it in to us, which is brilliant. We got 5,000 records in 2 years, which is wonderful. So if you do see a hedgehog, I'll talk to you at the end about a way that you can contribute to this survey. Another thing that Ulster Wildlife does is we have a wildlife gardening campaign called Let Nature In. You can go onto our website and get lots of these little sheets which help you do things in your garden to help wildlife, and there's one specifically for hedgehogs. Some really cool things that you can do is build a hedgehog house. Our hedgehogs need somewhere where they can den and have their babies safely in spring and summer, but in the winter time they actually hibernate and they need somewhere safe that they can sleep all the way through the winter. So a wee hedgehog house is absolutely brilliant for our little hedgehogs. Another thing you can do is put a hedgehog highway into your garden. So hedgehogs struggle to move between gardens because we've got all these big garden fences. But if we cut a little hole in the bottom, the hedgehogs can move between gardens. And that's really important because hedgehogs can move up to 1 kilometre every night in search of food. So they can go through 10 or 12 different gardens looking for insects, looking for grubs to feed and get themselves fat for the winter time for hibernating. And here is a hedgehog that was filmed by one of our members. You can hear it crunching on the food. I love this wee video. It's very cute. Look at this wee nose. And then just at the end, what's that? As a wee sneeze, a wee hedgehog sneeze. Bless it for a wee hedgehog. So, what is biodiversity and why should we be protecting it? Okay, I've talked about all these different species and Ulster Wildlife's work, but what is biodiversity? Okay, well, let's break it down. Let's break down the word. So if you take biodiversity apart, there's two things going on. You've got bio, which means biological. So that counts for all living things, plants, animals, and fungi. And diversity means lots of different things. So biodiversity, when you put it together, it's all the different species of plants and animal and fungi together. Excuse me. So what is a species, okay? Well, those three things there, barn owls, hedgehogs, and red squirrels, they're different kinds of animals. They're different species. Here's two other Irish species here. We've got barn owls on the left, and we have another owl on the right called the long-eared owl. So even though they're owls, they are actually both different species. This means that they look very different, they live in different places, and they do different things. So our barn owls like to be in open areas with lots of farmland and lots of grass, whereas our long-eared owls live in woodland and they like to hunt in the cover of woodland as well. They also hunt slightly different things. Barn owls almost exclusively eat rodents, whereas long-eared owls will also eat birds as well if they can get them. And it makes sense because you've got lots of birds in our woodland. So species are different kinds of animals which look different and behave differently and do different things in our landscape, okay? Why should we protect our biodiversity? Why should we protect all of these different species? Well, I personally believe we should protect these species because they're part of our world, and a lot of them are so amazing and they deserve to be a part of this world, and we should do our best to try and prevent them from disappearing. So many of our species are going extinct, and that means they're disappearing forever. We can't bring them back, and I think it's really important that we prevent that happening. But also, species are so important. Um, as we're saying there at the very beginning, they're so integral to all of the processes of life on the planet, including things that we need. Excuse me. So barn owls, for example, not only do they have this real cultural element in Ireland because the screech of the barn owl give rise to the legend of the banshee. After this talk, if you go and look up the screech of the barn owl and listen to it, it's actually quite scary. So it's a real part of Irish history, this. But also, they are natural pest control. They eat lots of mice and rats, and we don't want lots of mice and rats. A little bit is okay, but they eat a lots of our food and they come into our homes and all the rest of it. So if barn owls can do the job for us of looking after them and keeping their numbers down, that's so, so important. And we've got our squirrels. Believe it or not, squirrels are little engineers. Squirrels will bury their seeds and nuts for the winter, but they actually forget about 70% of all the nuts that they bury. So in fact, what this means is the nuts that they forget about grow into new trees. And so these squirrels help make new forests for us. And it's a really important part of our woodlands that we have lots of squirrels that are able to spread seeds far and wide to create new woodlands for us, which is brilliant. And woodlands are so good for so many things. They're so good for combating climate change. They're so good for slowing down water so we have less floods. And they're so good for holding biodiversity. They're so important for all of the native wildlife in Ireland. And then we've got our hedgehogs, the gardener's friends. They eat so many pests in our gardens and on our farms, slugs and snails and caterpillars and all these things which eat our plants. Hedgehogs play a really important role in controlling their numbers, and they look very cute whilst they're doing it. So in short, our biodiversity is all about all the different types of animals that we have living here in Ireland, and we should protect them because they form part of our natural landscape and they are part of our habitats, and keeping them makes everything healthy. We've got barn owls on our farms eating our rice and rats and mice. We've got the squirrels in their woodlands, protecting the woodlands for the future, making new woodlands, and our hedgehogs in our gardens and our hedgerows, doing the job of eating all of the insects. Well, what can you guys do to help our natural biodiversity? The big thing that anyone can do is don't litter, don't throw your rubbish away. And if you do see any rubbish on the ground, please put it in the bin because animals can eat plastic and things and they can choke on it and they can die. So we want to prevent that as much as we can. So please dispose of your waste responsibly. The second thing is don't destroy. If you want to go into the woodland and roll over a log to see all the bugs and the beetles underneath, absolutely you do that. But make sure that you put it back because everything out in the natural world is a home for something else. So do your best to not destroy things and put things back the way you find them. Definitely explore them, but just be conscious that everything has a home and you could be destroying that home if you're doing anything destructive. And the last thing is stay curious. If you see something or you read about something, investigate, ask your teachers, ask your parents about it. And if they don't know the answers, there's lots of books and resources online, lots of places that you can get information about why these animals do these things that they do. Because if you don't look and investigate, you'll never find out and you'll never care. So ask those questions and so you can learn much more about our native wildlife. And the other big thing that I mentioned is submit your wildlife sightings. If you see any of those animals that we were talking about, or if you see any other animals, you can report your sightings. If you're in the south, you can go to the website, the National Biodiversity Data Centre, get a grown-up to help you. There's a page for the Irish Hedgehog Survey, so you can say where you saw a hedgehog, or if you saw it at your granny's house, or you saw it at your friend's house, you can submit where you saw the hedgehog, because if we don't know where these creatures are, we can't protect them. So we need people to tell us where they are. If you're in the north, you can go to the Ulster Wildlife website, and we have a wonderful map of red squirrel and grey squirrel sightings. So if you see a squirrel, you can go on there and add your little dot to the map, because we can't protect our red squirrels if we don't know where they live. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. I hope everyone's being well behaved in classrooms and being good for their teachers. We'll have a wee bit moment here to answer any questions. But thank you very much for coming, and thanks for listening.
Thanks so much, Ross. That was a really great talk. Guys, I see some questions already in the chat, but if you keep sending them in, that would be great, and we'll get to them just in 2 seconds. I am going to share my screen now just to talk a little bit more about what's happening for Eco Week this week. But please, if you have any questions for Ross, do send them into the chat, and we'll get to them in just 2 minutes. So hopefully my screen will start to share. I see lots of thank yous coming in. Thanks from Ennis National School. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Castellini.
Thank you, everyone. Your screen's just, there you go, it's just loaded up there, Saif.
Oh yeah, it's still not loaded for me, so we'll see what happens. Thank you from St. Mary's. That's great. Let me go across here to the correct talk. Here we go. Okay, so thanks everybody so much for listening. We're going to get to your questions in just a second, but I just want to mention about ECO-UNESCO. So if you want to get involved with ECO-UNESCO, we have lots of different programs that we can do. One of our main programs is the Young Environmentalist Award. So if any of you guys want to do any kind of action project in your local area, you can enter that into the Young Environmentalist Awards for 25-26. There's still plenty of time to enter. We'll be taking registrations up until basically Christmas. So even if you don't have any of your project done, you can always enter in and do the project after Christmas as well. We also run workshops in schools, so maybe you can't come to us, but we can definitely come to you. So if you'd like to take part in a workshop, there's loads of different ones. We also get funding for lots of these workshops as well. So potentially if your school can't afford the workshop, then we might be able to provide one to you for free as well. And then finally, we've got lots of youth groups that you can take part in, where there's lots of other young people who are interested in climate and biodiversity, and you can find all the information about that stuff on our website. We also have a QR code here for feedback. I'll send the link into the chat in a minute. So teachers, this is your opportunity to tell us what do you think about this talk, and all the other talks that we have this week. I see lots of the names are coming up every single talk, so thanks guys for coming. But I will send that feedback form out to you as well. And then finally, we have lots more talks all the rest of the week. Later today, myself, I'll be giving the talk Climate Change 101. So if you have no clue what climate change is about, we're going to find out all about it. And then we have more talks for the rest of the week. You can still sign up for all of these talks. There's still plenty of time. So go back onto our Eventbrite and sign up for the talks if you haven't done already. And thank you guys. That is the end of this session. So I can see lots of questions have come into the chat already. Let's start off. JFK School in Limerick, Mr. Walsh's class, want to know how long barn owls live for.
That's an excellent question. Well done, JFK. How long do barn owls live for? Well, the average lifespan of a barn owl in the wild is only 4 years old, so they have to make the best of every breeding season they can to have as many babies as they can. They can live to about 20 years old in captivity, but there's just so many threats facing them when in the wild that they don't tend to live that long. The oldest barn owl that we've ever found was one of our nesting birds, which died on the road at about 11 years old. So if they're getting to 10, they're doing very, very well in the wild.
And Mr. Walsh's class also want to know, where can we find red squirrels?
Ah, that's a very good question. So red squirrels are making a bit of a comeback now. So you can find them in lots of places across Ireland. Check your local woodlands. If you go on to the National Biodiversity Data Centre website, there'll be a map, and you can look to see where the closest red squirrels are near to you. I believe if you're based in Dublin, the closest red squirrels to you will be in the Wicklow Mountains. But I can't give you specifics about where to look for red squirrels because I don't know where you guys are based and my knowledge isn't comprehensive. But have a wee look online and you will find good information.
Yeah, I do believe if you're in Dublin, the closest red squirrels to you are actually on Killiney Hill. There is some in Dublin City. There's one park where there's red squirrels.
Oh, wow. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. Mr. Walsh's class also wants to know what can we do if we see a hurt animal?
That's a very good question. It happens a lot, where animals get injured. The first thing to check is it actually hurt or does it appear hurt? Because a lot of people see an animal and they think it's in danger because it's on its own. Um, a lot of parent birds leave their young during the day, so just be careful. Maybe move it if it's on a road, move it off the road into the hedge or something, because it might be okay. The parents might know about it. But if it's visibly hurt, if you see maybe it's a broken wing or it's bleeding, then it will need to go to a specialist animal rescue centre. And there's lots of different ones all across the country. So the best thing to do is to look online and see where the closest one is to you, because a lot of animals need specialist care. If you're struggling to find a good animal rescue, you can take it to any vet, and any good vet should review the animal and see what its chance of survival is, and hopefully get it the care that it needs.
Great. Emily in Ballygiblin wants to know what is the best food for red squirrels?
Excellent question. Red squirrels like a variety of different food. In the wild, they mainly will eat like hazelnuts at this time of year, but they'll also eat berries and things as well. If you're looking to feed squirrels in your garden, just be very careful. There's no squirrels around. Um, they like sunflower seeds in my garden, and occasionally they like peanuts as well. But don't be feeding them too much. It's important that they find enough natural food to look after themselves. But in the wild, they eat all sorts of things, seeds and berries and birds' eggs sometimes, and even fungi. If you're walking through a forest at this time of year, have a wee look at the fungi on the ground, and sometimes you can see the little nibblings that the squirrels have eaten.
That's great. And then I think our last question is from Adon, also in Ballygiblin. He wants to know how many barn owl nests have you built?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So we've built around 300 nest boxes in the north, and we've put them up, but only about 1 in 10 actually get used by the barn owls because they're so rare and they're very hard for the owls to find them. But we do our best to build as many nest boxes as we can, and oftentimes the barn owls don't like them. They like to nest in the barn or they like to nest in the tree anyway, but we do our best to help them.
And then another question from Adamas National School. Is it possible to access a recording of yesterday's introductions to the SDGs? We were registered, but we missed it. Oh, that's a question for me. It's definitely available. So we will put up all of our recordings on our YouTube channel in a couple of weeks' time once they're edited up. So if you go onto YouTube and search ECO-UNESCO, you'll be able to find the recordings for all of the talks that we do this week. And then we have another question from Harry in third class. What can you feed hedgehogs?
Excellent question. So if you have got hedgehogs in your garden and you want to feed them, you absolutely can. Make sure that you feed them a protein-rich food. We recommend dog food or cat food. It has to be protein-rich because they eat insects in the wild. They eat protein in the wild, and a lot of cat food and dog food has lots of wheat and rice and other things in it. So just check the label and make sure. If you're getting specialist hedgehog food, also make sure you read the label on that too, because there's no legal ramification for what is a hedgehog food. So just check it's got lots of protein in it. That's what they need. Lots of people in the past have put out milk for hedgehogs. Don't put out milk for hedgehogs. It's very bad. They are lactose intolerant. They can't have milk. And mealworms as well. They can't eat lots of mealworms because there's something in it that's very bad for them if they eat a lot of them. So, meaty cat or dog food for hedgehogs.
Great. And we have two more questions. First question is, what is the red squirrel's lifespan? And the second one is, how many red squirrels are in Ireland?
Well, red squirrels' lifespan in the wild is normally about 5 to 6 years old. They don't live for very long. Um, how many red squirrels are there in Ireland? That's a brilliant question that I wish I knew the answer to be honest. Lots is the short answer. I think there was an estimate of around 100,000. But I'm not sure if that's correct or if I would trust that if I'm honest. But the thing is, the red squirrel populations are changing so quickly. In 2000, they were doing much worse than they are now in 2025. So then getting a population estimate is very, very tricky.
Okay, perfect. And St. Anne's in Rathkeel want to know, what do you do if there is a red squirrel in your back garden?
Oh, you pull up a chair and you watch it because they're amazing to have in your garden. If you've got a red squirrel in your garden, I am insanely jealous. That's absolutely brilliant. You can put up a squirrel feeder and you can feed them some nuts, the sunflower seeds and the peanuts that I was talking about before. Or you can put out little dishes of water for them. It's important that you don't put out too much because they have to learn how to be wild animals. But the best thing I can say is enjoy the fact that they're there because if you have them, there must be nice trees nearby. You could always plant a few trees to help encourage them. Things like hazel trees and cherry trees, which have lots of fruits on them, which the squirrels love. But the thing
Yeah,
is to just enjoy them because they used to be very, very rare, and getting one in your garden is so special.
that's really great. If we have any more questions, guys, do send them in.
I should say as well, if you do get a red squirrel in your garden, please report your sighting, because people will want to know where you've seen the squirrel. So that's brilliant.
Okay, I don't think we have any more questions in the chat, but I'm going to stop recording our session now.